When looking at the Indus Valley civilizations, we want to look at Mohenjo Daro. And this is one of those key sites for the early civilizations in the Indian subcontinent. Here I want to focus on the homes. And of course, we have the walls of these homes because they're building them out of kiln-fired brick, which is a material that's going to survive far longer than mud brick, which is generally not fired. Now, the city itself is laid out with the primary roads running north-south. The side streets will run east and west. The city itself is laid out more or less on a grid pattern. This is really common. It's actually really good for organization in a city. And in the side streets, you tend to see these channels running through the street. That is going to be for basically a sewer system where they can run plumbing, these terracotta pipes or open channels in some cases through the city, allowing for good sanitation. Something very key if you're going to increase population density. If you have too many people in an area without sewerage systems, well, it's going to be a bit of a mess. And the homes are very simple. They're very block-like. These homes generally have minimal doors, minimal windows, and they're going to be in a very simple cubic form. The reason is this is one of the easiest forms to build. And this is a very early civilization, so they haven't developed some of the architectural ideas that we see developing over time. Inside the homes, they tend to be very crowded. Depending on the homes, here this is sort of a middle-class home, but they can be smaller or larger. Generally, they're going to make use of the roof because that's going to be useful space. And many of these homes, just like we've seen with any number of other ancient societies, will hold multiple generations. So your grandparents, yourself, and your children may all be living in one place. You could easily have 10, 12, or more people living under one roof. So it's going to be very crowded, but of course, just like in many other ancient societies, you don't spend your time at home. You're actually going to spend most of your time out, and you use home to sleep and eat, and that's really the basis of these. Now, some of the wealthier homes will have a courtyard in the middle of them. That's really common. We're in a dry, fairly warm environment, so it's the sort of place where a courtyard works. Again, something we wouldn't build into a home in, for example, Wisconsin. And the rooms tend to be very small. Here we see an example based on the foundations, and you see it is subdivided into very small spaces. Well, each of these spaces has a purpose, many of them being storage of one form or another. But it doesn't look like our classic house today. This is a far cry from the modern day 4,000 square foot McMansion. Instead, what we have is practicality. If I make a bigger house, it's going to take a lot more resources and there's a lot more upkeep. So you tend to have smaller homes. Also, the brick construction will limit some of their methods. And in terms of span, well, they're limited there as well. Your lintels are generally made of wood, and you can't build massive spans out of that, especially without techniques and ideas such as the arch and other forms. Many of these homes are multiple story, but the stairways are going to be very steep. They're not going to look like we're used to today, and in many cases, they actually replace the stairs with ladders. So we see something that has some modern characteristics, but definitely some ancient sensibilities about it.